I feel like I didn't actually get to all of the Bone Room content. Lyric, maybe you can back
Oh
me
my
up on
god, I
this.
was
Do
gonna
you
bring
remember
that
the
up, and I
Mexican
wasn't sure if I
legs?
should. Okay, so the Mexican legs were a
Oh,
famous thing
Ooh.
with all of us. It was a big
Oh
thing,
my
and it's
god.
like, okay, so one day we got shipped like a bunch of human femurs.
All right, we're back in.
All right,
okay.
We're recording. What about the Mexican legs?
Oh God.
so yeah, I don't remember where they came from, but it was these human femurs. It was a bunch of them in this tub, and they had like this crusty kind of like the way that they had been processed. Like I think that they got mummified somehow, and we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't unmummify them, so we couldn't clean them, so we couldn't sell them. So we kept them in a tub upstairs next to the shipping table. And whenever we get a new employee, somebody would open the tub being like, what the hell is this? And then this smell would erupt. And I don't know why we called them the Mexican legs, because they were not from Mexico, neither were they from Mexican individuals. But
I didn't know that. I thought they were Mexican.
Were they from Mexico?
I don't know. That was just how they were introduced to me.
I don't think anyone knows the origin of the Mexican legs. It was just a thing that existed forever. And after the Bone Room closed the brick and mortar location, I don't know what Diana did with that huge Tupperware tub of human femurs, which is insane because femurs are the most popular bone. Everybody always wanted them. It was so hard for us to get them. We had like 20 of them and we couldn't sell them.
Yeah, it was very valuable. It was this valuable, and we couldn't sell them to. Usually, what we would do with meaty human bones, if we had human bones that were too had too much gristle on them, or jerky, basically, we would be able to sell them to
Gristle.
search and rescue people, because search and rescue dog
Cadaver
trainers
dogs.
need.
Yeah.
Yeah, cadaver dogs, they need human remains.
Yeah.
And they need old human remains to train their dogs with. So they would call us up and be like, hey, do you got any juicy specimens for us? And if we had any human bones in stock that had like some jerky on them, then we would be able to sell them specifically to that group of clientele. So, but yeah, these Mexican legs.
One girl in particular was she was a professor, and like that was the class that she taught about training cadaver dogs, and she was very particular about just coming to us for these pieces.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we were like a regular supplier, but we couldn't do it with the Mexican legs because they were in some sort of preserving fluid or something.
It was weird.
That wouldn't have worked for dogs. It was very weird.
I mean, there was a lot of funny stuff. Like there was a locker. Like, so we had the back room for like prep, and then there was a separate room for cleaning where we kept like the dermestid beetle colonies for like,
Oh, we didn't even talk about the beetles.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the beetles or the fact that there was a locker where inside there was like the things that we had no idea. Like there's stuff that we didn't know if we could sell, but then there's stuff that we knew we couldn't sell. Like we had a bunch of really fantastic human fetal specimens in jars.
Yeah.
Which were amazing to look at, and I've got some great photos, but we could not sell them.
You can't get rid of them either. There's no way to dispose of that material.
Actually, what they ended up doing to try and sell them was they sent it away for plastination.
Oh.
Because that is actually legal.
Weird. So if it's a plastic fetus, it's fine.
Yep. If it's going through that plasticine process like the Body Worlds exhibits, then...
But just a wet specimen is illegal? That's
something
so
about
weird.
It has to do with organ trade, and you can't, and it's tricky.
How would you be able to organ trade a pickled baby?
I don't know, dude. It's
probably just like it's probably not like it's like an what is it called? Like an overlap or something.
Like it's a blanket. It's a blanket law where it doesn't actually apply to this specific thing, but it can be considered this kind of thing.
God, the laws were so weird. It was such a weird.
Fish and game laws are very strange. You can sell some things, but you can't sell others. And it varies from state to state, and it's very complicated. And you can get in a lot of trouble, and a lot of people have.
You really can. You have to be careful of stuff like Fish and Wildlife will do stings on like Craigslist and stuff like that for just civilians. Like they'll sell, or they'll say, "Hey, do you have any eagle feathers to sell or something like that?" And people will get caught up in these things sometimes. You really have to watch your ass. So if you have anything, if you've got like, you know, a stuffed owl, or you have like bones or even feathers from raptors are illegal.
Yeah.
Unless you have enrollment in an indigenous tribe, et cetera, et cetera. There's like all these loopholes.
I feel like it's also important to say that Fish and Game is not coming for your personal collection. What they are looking for is if you are selling things.
Right.
Like, for example, there was a woman in San Francisco who used seagull feathers in her art, and she was fined by Fish and Game around the ballpark of $11,000 for this infraction. So don't sell things. But sometimes, you know what, we pick stuff up and it's in our personal collection, and as long as you're not, you know, encouraging the collecting of endangered species, it's fine. Just, it's your personal thing. Don't go talking about it.
Don't talk. It is conceivably, I mean, cops will find stuff to get you in trouble for. So it's like one of those things, if you let a cop search your house and he knew what he was doing, he could, and he found something, he could ding you for CITES or whatever.
Oh, well, Fish and Game won't. I mean, like, I've talked to so many normal cops. I mean, I've been in situations where I've been at a festival and someone is displaying something I think is inappropriate when it comes to a personal collection, and I've tried to alert a police officer and they don't know what I'm talking about. So
don't snitch on people. Okay, don't talk to the police.
I am not a snitch, but this one particular time, these people were being jerks and displaying a dolphin skull at, like, lightning in a bottle. And I'm like, this is not the place to encourage people to collect things they can't have.
What is lightning in a bottle?
And they were mean to me, so.
Oh, well, okay.
Well, then there. And this was years ago where I was much cattier and younger.
Okay, Karen.
Hey!
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I warn people about. Like, just be careful. Just watch it, you know.
Like, I've run into other makers, like, at events like the Edwardian Ball, where I've noticed, like, there was one time in particular, someone had a headdress, and they had used a pelican skull. And I told them right away, I'm like, this is gorgeous. You cannot sell this. And you hide this right now. Because there's no way that you have this legally. I don't want to see other people get into trouble, especially other makers.
Right. And people don't know. I mean, the laws are so Byzantine that it's just...
Oh, and it's tiny, and it's behind it. It's, you know, it's hidden in many lines of things. Famously, a couple of years ago, there was an antiquated law that no one was enforcing, which reads like a congressman wrote down its favorite animals.
Oh my God.
And then decided you're not allowed to sell those pieces or parts. And because there was kind of a slowdown in Fish and Game, they reenacted that law and went rampant across California and the Bay Area, just complete confiscating things, going like through people's antique warehouses, taking pianos that had actual ivory keys, which if they were made prior to 1970 are completely legal to own and sell, and stuff like kangaroo parts and pieces, python for some reason you can't sell within the state of California, even though you can go to the store and buy one. Shit got weird. Otter, there was a weird list, but a bunch of vintage stores on the Haight Street got busted for having like ocelot coats or things, stuff like that. Like,
fucking bullshit.
It truly is. You need to be careful when you're making stuff, and know if you're making stuff with dead animal parts, pieces, bones, whatever, make sure that what you have exists within the right side of the law. Like, you didn't find it. It's not a bird. It's not a marine mammal. Like, if you purchase these things, you're fine. But don't take field find stuff that you found, even if it was on your own property. You can't prove. There's no proof. So just don't. It's for the best.
It's fucking stupid too, because the endangered animal trafficking is a huge fucking problem. It's not like these guys don't have anything to do.
And mostly it revolves around the food trade. It has nothing to do with the pieces or parts, because the people who collect the dead animals are people like us.
Right.
It's the things that are trafficked in the endangered circles have more to do with the meat.
Yeah.
It's all about the meat, which is, look,
of course,
the pangolins and COVID-19. This is just all preposterous. The headdress I made for Five and Diamond is called Philodota Vindicta, which is pangolin's revenge, because it's all very like layered and scales, because I was thinking so much about the whole situation with pangolins, which over the last 3 years have become very, very popular within the bushmeat trade in terms of status. And now, when they were not endangered at all, now they very much are. And it's thought that perhaps they are the reservoir for COVID-19. So it's either that or bats. But it could be a similar strain does exist in pangolins. So I'm like, don't eat bushmeat. Just don't do it.
Just fucking don't. Yeah, I know. It's oh god.
Have a burger instead.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's fine. God, what was the other thing I was going to mention? We had another, I think the last Bone Room thing that I had to talk about that's very interesting is that we had one other big clientele base, and those were people who were looking for ritual parts for Santeria. Who either ran botanicas themselves, or were like independently trying to source things for a ritual. So we would occasionally have like upper class people coming in who, you know, wanted a very specific kind of human skull for a specific kind of ritual. And we would also have botanica owners call in on the phone and ask us to send them specific kinds of skulls. And they wanted, you know, like a male or a female skull. They wanted certain ages because those were all pertinent to the rituals that were being performed. And I never personally got to do this kind of thing, but I was told by some of the other people who worked there that when the botanica people were told that it's actually very difficult to sex a skull. Even the experts get it wrong a lot of the time, unless you have, you know, able to test DNA testing or you are like a hyper expert or something.
Well, actually, to correct with the botanica thing, in terms of skulls, it actually, there's like certain markers with male and females. So you can sex skulls like pretty easily. Like Diana was always really good at it. But the thing that the botanica people wanted was not so much skulls, but they wanted smaller bones. They wanted like male or female finger bones, and you can't sex postcranial bones. You can sex the skull, the pelvis, and sometimes the ribs, but pretty much nothing else. And they always wanted the small stuff. Like they wanted a finger bone from a man or a woman. We're like, you could always tell it was botanica because they were very precise about this. They wanted it cheap and they wanted it to be sexed. And we can't.
Right. So if we were not able to give them a particular answer about the sex of a piece of bone, one of the things that they would ask the employees to do was to run a pendulum over the bone. And if the pendulum went east-west, it was one thing. And if the pendulum went north-south, it was another thing. So, you know, like a plumb line, that kind of divination. And they would take that answer seriously over the phone. They were completely satisfied with that. Like that was their due diligence. And, you know, we would pack it up and send it off to them. Also, I will point out, as an armchair archaeologist and anthropologist, it is actually very difficult to sex skulls. And we know that because a lot of finds are getting recategorized because they were sexed incorrectly based on their grave goods. And some often based on even pelvises and skulls. There's one very famous site in Dolny Vestinici where 3 people were buried together who have been fought over so much in the intervening decades between our discovery of them and the current day. We still don't know what sex and or gender these people were. And they are so weird that their karyotype might have been like XXY or something like that, which is actually not uncommon. We find ambiguous people in ritual graves a lot because there is a history of intersex and trans people being considered sacred and shamanic in a lot of different human cultures. End footnote. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Also, I stand corrected. Yeah. Well, yeah. What's in past things, like just trying to sex a skull that is a certain number of years old can be very difficult because, I mean, everyone looked very, very different back then.
It's true. It's sometimes you can look at a skull and you're like, yeah, that's probably pretty male or pretty female. Like you've got a pretty strong idea.
Right.
I was actually looking at Eli's skull the other day, my partner, because his dentists are crazy now. Have you been to the dentist recently?
My mother's husband is a dentist.
Okay, well, they gave him a full fucking I don't even, was it a CT scan? I don't know, but they scanned his skin, they scanned his tissue, and then they scanned his actual bones. So he just has like a cross section of his
It's very
skull
cool.
all the way
Fantastic.
around the jaw. And they gave him the 3D model. I'm like, ask for it on a disc, get it on a disc. And so he did. He got his skull section on a
3D
disc.
printing a skull.
And he's going to 3D print it because he has
That's
a
awesome.
he has a 3D printer. I'm very excited. But I was looking at his
Ooh.
skull, and I mean, Jake knows what Eli looks like. He's Lyric. He's my typical boyfriend type. He's beautiful. He looks
He's
like
pretty,
an elf print.
He's like elfy, kind of thin,
Mm-hmm.
and
You're nailing it. You're nailing it.
smart, snarky, and a little quiet.
Yes. Well, he's not quiet.
And if I met him, would be a little bit mean, but in like a fun way to me that I would enjoy.
What do you think, Jake? Did she nail it?
Yes, that's like, yeah, hammer has been hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was only one that like didn't fit the mold, and we won't discuss them.
Eli's great. So yeah, I was looking at his skull, and even though Eli is like very delicate looking, you could put him in drag and he would pass, no problem. But even though his skull, and especially he's got a very small jaw, you could see the flare of the masseter muscle or the masseter bone. It was flared out in that very
the mandible, like right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do date a lot of people who have like really pointy mandibles.
Yeah, but he's got a very small, delicate chin, just little elf man. But the 3D model doesn't lie. He's got that male skull. What is going on?
Yeah, is someone
Ruben's being sloppy.
Is someone playing a game?
Ruben's being sloppy.
Ruben looks very unpleased.
Can he
Ruben's
even
watching
hear
the
us?
trailer for the Nickelodeon cartoon fighting game.
He's falling asleep.
Is it?
I muted him. I muted you, Ruben.
Ruben's in so much trouble. It's
Get
okay.
dunked on.
I mean, it's fine.
One time, Ruben sharpened a knife the entire podcast, like directly into the mic.
Pencil for a while, and I'm like,
Yeah.
stop clicking the pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Just mute yourself if you're going to do it, man. It's fine if you do it. Just stay muted and then pop it off when you need to talk.
Look at him. He doesn't give a
Look,
shit.
he's dead. He's pretending he's asleep.
Well,
he's pretending he's asleep.
We've all had to do enough Zoom that we know that, like, when I'm in the past, when there's been like a thing where everyone wants to be on Zoom, and I'm like, sure, but I'm gonna work the whole time.
Yeah.
I keep myself muted so I can be like with the sewing machine constantly.
I always have stuff. I've got my nail stuff here. I've got shit to fiddle with.
I mean, you can see there's like a million things around me, like this tarot project I've been working on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone asked me a question 3 years ago that said, what is important to you that is intangible? And then I stayed up all night writing down all of these intangible things that were very important. And then I'm like, I need to make a project out of this called the Intangible Tarot. You would be very surprised how difficult it is to figure out how to make like art representations of things that are intangible. Like, how do you represent this?
Why would I be surprised at that? That's like the least surprising thing ever. 2 days ago, my brother asked me, he's like, hey, did you ever think about doing a tarot? I'm like, The
Intangible Tarot is taking up a lot of my time. I'm like stuck on one card right now.
It's like going up to an artist and asking them, hey, have you ever thought about doing 72 separate illustrations, full color, for an already saturated market? Have you ever thought about that?
Like, but I'm not doing like the Hierophant and like I've created my own arcana and all of this shit. Like, it's a whole thing.
Oh yeah.
My God. Like, one of the cards is like, there's a whole section where it's the optical, where the things that you see out of the corners of your eye that look like moving shadows, but then you look and nothing is there.
Yeah, apparently normal people don't get that. I just found that out recently. Normal people don't have peripheral hallucinations.
Or the type of people who don't get the thing where if you clench your jaw in a certain way, it sounds like there's a storm in your ears.
No. Yep.
The thunder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Get that
call that sound. The rumbling.
The rumbling, the thunder, the thing. So anyway, it's the project we've been working on for a while. I'm stuck.
Yeah, I don't think Lyric mentioned at all, but she's an incredibly accomplished illustrator.
Well, dang.
She's very, very good draftsmanship.
That's a nice thing to say.
And I think
Eliza will understand. I'm having some arm trouble right now. Like, I'm having trouble, like, pointing with this finger, with my index finger on my right hand. Like,
you've been picking your nose too much.
I have, but also playing with my phone too much during sad things. And so I'm trying to get, like, my hand back. Like, last night, I think I tried to draw a cassowary, and I don't think it went very well.
It looks great.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't look how I wanted it to look.
Who cares?
But some stuff is going well. Like, here's this cheetah. Ooh la la.
Ooh.
Oh, it's a king cheetah.
Yes. And I actually know a king cheetah. He's a cutie. Another good reason to live in the Bay Area. There is a lot of animal... Talk about people who have independent jobs.
Yes.
I know a lot of people who do independent animal education, like Rob and Barb, who do wildcat conservation and education in Occidental California. They do very small tours. It's about $85 to $90, and it's like a full afternoon, and you get to be right up close and meet both of their cheetahs, their mountain lions, their snow leopards, their African leopards. They have a bunch of smaller and medium cats, which you would never get to see in zoos, like Joffrey's cats, caracal, Asian fishing cat, which are super cool because they go underwater and they flatten their ears. And they're great. And I mean, I have all these videos of me like feeding raw chicken to their cheetah and their snow leopard, and they're great people, like small business people who are making it work on their terms. Like, those two are fantastic humans.
How did they get a king cheetah? Explain what a king cheetah is, because I think most people don't know.
So everyone knows what a cheetah looks like. A king cheetah will be a cheetah that has the spots, but also long stripes down its body. Like, it has a completely different print and is very unusual. And so people like Rob and Barb and other people who do very independent animal experiences have relationships with zoos and other animal parks. So when cats have litters, the animal parks are not going to keep all the kittens. They get dispersed to a lot of different places. Zoos within the zoo community in the United States only trade with each other. Nothing is wild caught anymore. And the smaller parks do the same. They trade within each other. My friend Bonnie, two of her servals are from kitten lots from Safari West, which is a safari bed and breakfast in Calistoga.
Which is, I will say, from an environmental standpoint, as long as they are preventing hybridization, this is a much, much, much better technique of preserving these species than taking them from the wild. Because the cats are less stressed if they are bred in captivity. And again, the hybridization is a problem, especially with tigers, because they will mix like a Siberian tiger with a Sumatran tiger or whatever. And then those are no longer useful for conservation. But if you're going to have tigers in captivity, or big cats or any large animal, then raising them in captivity and breeding them in captivity is a better way of going about it than wild caught capturing.
Especially with animals like cheetahs, which during the last ice age were in a genetic bottleneck and now do not have as much diversity as they should. So with the breeding programs that exist, it's pretty much their only chance. If they were left to their own devices, I'd give it 400, 500 years. We probably wouldn't see any more, just because the genetic pool in the wild is so small.
That makes sense.
And they're overly specialized animals. They're very strange. Like, you know, at Rob and Barb's, like, because they run their cheetahs 3 times a week because you have to, or else they get heart problems. And I've seen them. Like, they are weird animals. Like, I've taken the slow-mo video and watched, like, the back feet go in front of the front feet when they're running at 70 miles per hour in the driveway. And you're like, this is nuts. You're a weird animal, and I don't know why you exist.
Do they run them with a lure?
Yeah, kind of. It's like, you know, when you have a toy on a string and you're dragging it around the house and your cat's chasing it, it's like that, but on a wire and really, really fast.
Like with greyhounds.
At the end of the driveway, someone is standing with like a pot that has meat in it to kind of catch the cheetah in a way to get them to stop running and be like, oh, snack. And then you kind of do a thing to get them back to the beginning, because you run them multiple times because they have to run.
Yeah.
Like, every zoo that has cheetahs, every wild animal park does running programs. You can't have a stationary cheetah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, there's loads of places like this. Like, if you look around, wherever you live, there's probably a smaller wild animal experience that it isn't a zoo within the zoo program. And these people, for the most part, I mean, with the exception of certain people, Tiger King.
Of
Right.
course,
Which
yeah.
I am
Hard to
apparently
not bring that up.
Yeah, which apparently I'm 1 degree away from him because Bonnie has knew him. It's a whole thing.
It's not a big community.
It's a very small community, but the smaller stuff, like these people are so into education and really care about their animals and really care about educating other people about the plight of animals you wouldn't necessarily know about. Like Rob and Barb do a lot of work to try and get money raised for the medium-sized cats. Tigers and lions and cheetahs, they get a lot of money, but Asian fishing cats, Joffrey's cats, caracals, these are cats that no one raises money for.
Right.
And they're just in as much danger.
Yep. It's true. Yeah, the little guys who aren't the big charismatic spotlight animals
Right.
need
even more support.
I mean, look how some zoos represent the animals. You go to the San Francisco Zoo, and the tiger and the gorilla have very large enclosures. But the tapir is in a concrete bunker from the 1970s. Like, it's a little shameful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco is not a good example of a zoo. Oakland Zoo, on the other hand, is phenomenal and fantastic. Everyone should visit them, and they are wonderful. It's all very, it's evenly, all the funding's evenly distributed across all other animals. They have a bunch of stuff that other zoos don't have. They have hyenas. They just opened their new California exhibit, which has a bunch of animals that used to be native to California and no longer are, like wolves, grizzlies. They have a jaguar named Luca, and he's very, very cute.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that just opened. Fantastic sky ride. The Oakland Zoo, love it. Used to live a block away.
Big shout outs.
Eliza used to also live very close to the Oakland Zoo back in the day.
I don't think I ever got to go.
But you lived very close.
Did I?
You did. You were right down. You were basically like due west from me in East Oakland. When you had that very long loft where we shot
Zoo
your
memories.
air rifles across it at
God, that was a good apartment. Every time I get a new apartment, I'm like, this is it. I've outdone myself this time. So I can't really say it's my all-time best apartment, but it might be. Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
And I'm sure he'll edit this out, but you're in Seattle?
Why would he edit it out?
Because I don't know, because you're very secretive and you don't want people to know where you are.
No, I'm not. Everyone knows where I live.
You have a shitload of secrets.
You're very secretive.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You told me your dog was secret once or something like that, and people couldn't know about your dog, and I was like, how? And you're like, just no one can know him, and I was like, okay.
I sent you that text message in confidence, Ruben, so that's one of my secrets that you have fucking just laid bare on the fucking podcast.
You idiot, Ruben.
Which several people listened to.
Wait, that was about a text? Oh, we have to edit this out, Jake.
Yeah, no, I
walked into it.
It's
Eliza and I are the only two members of the cast that live in the same city.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Ruben's in Arizona, Michelle's in Montana.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
we're all over.
Michelle used to live in Seattle.
There could have been wild horses.
It's true. A horse could have busted into her apartment.
My mother's horse came from Montana. I mean, there's just horses everywhere.
It's true. That is horse country. No, I am not secretive about where I live because I have a large dog and many rifles now as well. So, Molon Labe, motherfuckers.
Eliza said, pull up.
I just remembered I could have talked about another one of my weird, tiny, independent jobs, which is I'm a herper on call. Like, festivals hire me to be the person, and I got my own radio with my own channel, which is funny for a festival because usually everybody's on, like, the same channel. I have my own channel. They hire me because when people who are on drugs find a rattlesnake in their tent, they call me on the radio, and I come and I make the rattlesnake. Well, I make it go away a maximum of 125 feet because that's what I'm legally allowed to do.
Right.
But I'm the one who makes it go away. And I'm usually super drunk on tequila and in a bikini while I do this. I talked about this on The Weakest Link. I'm like, yeah,
that's crazy.
I like move snakes. And then the Jane lady was like, well, what about Burning Man? And I'm like, well, Burning Man's a caustic alkali lake bed, so there are no snakes.
Right. Yeah.
But no, that's what I do as a job. Like, I do a bunch of snake stuff. And now I've become kind of like Doolittle for a couple
Imagine
of festivals.
thinking snakes are in a caustic alkali.
There's a big
I never thought about like a music festival logistics having to have that type of a person, but that makes so much sense. That's such a odd job to fill.
Right,
Well,
the snake wrangler.
Well, especially if you want people to be safe and you want animals to be safe, and also to have someone on staff who can educate people about rattlesnakes.
Right.
Because, like I was talking about earlier, my friend Bonnie, who does animal stuff, she was my mentor for rattlesnake training. Like, she did a rattlesnake class at the Bone Room, where she brought in about 12 different kinds of rattlesnakes, like everything you could imagine. There was an albino one. She had Mojave green. Western rattlesnake, Pacific, Southwestern, like all of them, and had all the examples. And then she had like a bucket filled with like the medium-sized babies and just like dumped them into this like little thing. And they're just all like, and everyone, this is inside a room, and they're just in like a little, like a plexiglass, like large plate with like, it's like 4 inches high. And they're just there. And she's like, and this is how you move them. And look at me, I'm standing this far away and they can't hurt me. So yeah, she's the one who taught me how to deal with the rattle babies and keep them safe and encourage other people to not hurt them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Rattlesnakes are great. People don't really know how much personality they have.
Oh, they're so hilarious. Like, somebody brought a baby into my local reptile place the other day. Like, we found this baby snake, and the guy's like, that is a baby rattlesnake. Why have you brought it here? Because now that you've brought it to us, we legally cannot return it to the wild. It's another trap, like, because they're angry and pissed off. Like, the babies are not fun. They have like the angry eyebrows.
Oh my God, that's like, you guys are braver than I am for being able to handle that kind of stuff.
They can only strike,
I respect snakes.
They can strike half the distance they are long. So you got a 3-foot snake. It has a radius of 1.5 feet. If you're 2 feet away, you are fine.
Okay.
And they're not going to come towards you. They don't like you. They don't want to be with you. They don't want to be your friend.
These are good to know. These are good things to know.
Snakes are pretty easy. I mean, you're never gonna not outwit a snake.
I mean, there's those Asian flying snakes which can like leap from tree to tree, and that seems like it would potentially be a problem.
Yeah.
They're also venomous, so
sure. I guess one of those could hit you in the face, and that might go badly. But
oh my God, I would pay so much to see that GIF.
Oh my God!
Flying from a tree and hitting Eliza in the face, and she'd be like, "No!"
I feel like I would handle it better than many people, probably.
Probably.
Someone brought a snake for show and tell when I was in kindergarten. It wasn't me, it was someone else. And someone knocked the snake carrier over, and the snake got out, and all the kids started screaming and running and like jumping up on chairs and stuff. And I just picked up the snake. And it's one of these like formative Eliza moments. And I mean, I just put the snake back in his carrier because my dad had already taught me by that point, like how to catch a snake, and also that our local garter snakes, and I think we've got a couple other species in Washington. It's not a particularly reptile rich region, the Pacific Northwest, but we've got a couple. Garter snakes are stinky, but they're not venomous. So you can handle them pretty much with impunity. And yeah, I just picked it up, put it back in the carrier. That probably cemented my reputation from that point on, now that I think about it.
Yeah, snakes are easy. Like most non-venomous snakes, I mean, a lot of them can be bastards. And I mean, we were talking about the East Bay vivarium. I mean, I've been in there so many times and handled so many different snakes. And I have so many different little pockmark scars all over my hands from being bitten. Like, they love biting you, but they let go right away. And it's fine. And then you end up with wounds that you can't see that are leaking very, very quickly because the teeth are so fine and sharp, and you just start leaking. Like, there was this one Nicaraguan boa that bit me 5 times in a row. It just went bam, 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 bam. And then my hand was just like, it was just leaking. I couldn't see the wounds because they have over 100 needle hook teeth. They're very, very amusing and cute. But garters all right. Like, yeah, they're stinky and they will bite you, but it's not that bad. It feels like a pinch.
And most of the time they won't even try biting you because they're so little. They know that fighting back is like pointless.
And they're fast and wiggly. Like, they just want to get away.
Yeah, I'm a big snake fan. I've also been bitten. Not nearly as much as Lyric has, but it is very funny when constrictors and pythons bite you. It's like, what are you trying to do here? You don't have venom. There's nothing you can do.
I mean, Under a certain size, they recognize their mistake. They're like, fuck, you're not food, and they let go right away. Over a certain size, they don't let go.
Right.
Like, for instance, the snake we had is a store pet at the Bone Room, Rubber Ducky. Rubber Ducky was a 33, I think he was like 30 years old. He was 30 years old. He was an albino Burmese python.
He looked exactly like the one that Britney Spears had during that the music awards performance.
I would not be surprised if the one that she had was one of his descendants, because he was heavily bred, because he was one of the first.
Yeah.
So he at one point did, when our boss, Ron Caldwell, was not paying attention, Rubber Ducky did bite onto him. And when pythons of that size bite, they don't let go, because they have all those teeth, and those teeth are like a centimeter long. There's like 100 of them, and they get stuck. So, or they just don't let go, because they're like, also, I can probably eat you.
They can eat you, yeah. I mean, they can eat an adult human.
So you have to submerge their head in a bucket of water and wait until they let go. That's all you can do. And it's
good lord.
But many times we had to change that snake's water bowl, and it's a 2-person job, because you open the thing, because he was blind in one eye, he had arthritis, but he would bite you. So one of us would have to wait, grab him behind the head, and hold it while the other person changed the water. And then when he'd shed, it was a 3-person job of us like oiling him up and rubbing him down to get all of his shed skin off. Remember Rubber Ducky in the big trash can of water in the back of the store all day, and then we'd all have to wrestle with him to get his shed skin off. It was good times, good memories.
What a big sweetheart of a snake.
They are just big chill boys. I mean, they can kill you, and they do kill people sometimes,
of
but
course.
They are just big chill boys.
It is. It's rare, but it does happen.
It does happen sometimes.
Mostly when people are doing something stupid. Mostly boys. It's usually boys.
Yeah.
Like, you don't hold your reticulated python if you're alone. Like, you just don't. If a snake is over a certain size, you just don't.
They kill people in the wild occasionally, but not that often. I bet it's going to start happening in Florida more, though.
Oh, well, that's a whole different situation where the Burmese have like escaped and bred.
Yep.
And now they have bounty.
Are they like python hunters?
They are very invasive. Very invasive in the Everglades, yeah.
Whoa.
They're eating all the birds. So there's a prize every year for the most Burmese pythons caught and the biggest one caught.
Holy moly.
Because they live for like 35 years and they get to be like 20 feet long. And
that's just another reality TV show waiting to happen, Snake Hunters.
And when they have a lot of babies at once. So the population exploded by a couple of escaped ones, and also the hurricanes. Pet stores were damaged, snakes escaped. People let their snakes go, which you should never do. And it's just gotten out of control.
Can you eat them? Are they tasty like rattlesnake?
I don't know, but I imagine so, because they're so big.
It seems like a lot of meat, like if you're going to get a 20-pound or 20-foot python out of the Everglades that's been eating alligator for years, might as well eat it.
I mean, I imagine a lot of the really big rock python skins that come out of Africa, like, I have to imagine the meat is eaten because it's got to be a hunted animal.
Unless there's something wrong with it, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen anybody eating them in Florida, but
are you in Florida often?
Actually, I used to. Yeah, one set of grandparents used to live there, so
what?
I've been to Florida quite a bit.
I'm so jealous as a native Californian. To me, Florida seems very exotic and fancy.
You would love Florida. It is like Jurassic Park down there.
It is a little bit like that.
Honest to God, it is so fucking weird. It does not feel like you are in America in a lot of those places. Like if you go down to Archer, near Gainesville, but like in the boonies around Gainesville and get into the swamp and the jungles. I mean, golden orb weaver spiders, I mean, the webs are this big and they really are golden. They're like yellow silk. And then the spider itself is this fucking big. And I mean, you run into them with your face all the time because you're walking through the jungle. It's awesome. I love Florida. A lot of people think it sucks. I think it's great.
That sounds amazing.
It doesn't suck. It's just weird.
It's very weird.
Also, I really like humidity, so that sounds really fun for me.
The humidity is tough, but
it's very real.
There are ways to deal with it.
We don't have humidity really in Southern California. It's just dry. No. We had humidity today because it rained, which was super fucking weird because it's been constantly 99 degrees. But no, humidity, when I go to other places and it's humid, I'm like, this is amazing. You can wear little dresses and you're swimming in the air.
It's nice, yeah. Like up to after a certain point, like up into the wet bulb conditions where you just spontaneously die. That sucks. But yeah, the warm and humid and like it's, you go out and you sort of, it's balmy, it's very nice. It's nice on your skin. It's like a jungle. Yeah, it's great. I really like Florida. I love the Everglades. I haven't been to Key West yet, but I'd love to go. But yeah, I'd go down there and hunt snakes and eat them. Sure.
We could have a show.
We would fucking
make our millions. It'd be amazing.
It would be unbelievable how much money we would make on YouTube eating pythons out of the Everglades. And it's Florida too. Like it's probably not heavily licensed,
Oh, you can get away with it. You can get away with a lot in Florida.
Well, there's like whole shows about people hunting alligators for money, and I'm not really sure. I saw a thing once in a restaurant where apparently people were hunting alligators, and that was the entire show.
That's what I'm saying about snake hunting.
Yeah,
it's the same category.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't want to hunt them though. Like, I'd much rather have a show which was like me and Eliza visiting a bunch of like independent animal education stations. We just talked about animals.
That would be great.
While wearing fabulous outfits, that would be great.
Yeah,
well, that's like
you guys have been chopping it up for a while.
In between segments, natural
I
think there needs to be snake hunting, and then there's like a cool down period. It would be like the Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie show,
yes.
except way the fuck cooler,
like from the Mirror universe where we're both evil. Yeah, there's just the snake hunting part, and then visit to the weirdo antiquities stores. And Florida's great. I really like it. They have bog mummies in Florida too. Actually, it's the only place other than Europe where there are bog mummies. But they have the opposite kind.
The bog.
Yeah, they have basic bog mummies here where the bones were preserved, but not the flesh. So I don't really know what makes them mummies. I think some of the flesh is preserved, and then all the peat bog mummies are acidic. So all of the bones melt away, but we still have the leather. Basically, we have people jerky. So yeah, we have the opposite type here, and there's a very weird and cool. I can't remember the name of the pond now, but it's a pond with an anaerobic basin that was used as a burial site for many, many, many years, and some amazing stuff has come out of there. Like they found a skull that just had a whole brain preserved inside of it. So yeah, Florida rules. I don't like it when people talk shit about Florida. It's a great place.
I think that Florida Man is one of my favorite things on the internet, where it's just like when something crazy happens, you're like, yeah, that sounds about right, and I'm interested. I want to hear more about the Florida Man who did this crazy thing.
Yeah, well,
Florida Man's funny.
You and I can be Florida Man.
Oh my God, we could just run around finding Florida Man.
If we believe,
this would be a show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
when you were clearly have enough for spin-off material here.
Oh no, when you were talking right now about the preservation, it reminded me of when we would be cleaning human skulls and like pulling roots out of people's noses and stuff. I have bags and bags of like mummified human brain matter I found while like scraping inside somebody's like just trying to get all the bits out, and I saved it all in bags. Like there's a bag there and over there somewhere, like all the things.
I mean, I can't fault you for that. I probably would have done the same thing. But why?
It seemed like a good idea at the time. There's a bag around here somewhere with like, at the time it was wet matter, and I'm like, how did this get here? So I put it within like 4 layers of Ziploc, and so I still have like the wet human brain matter somewhere in the room, because why wouldn't you keep it? I mean, it seems like a waste to throw it away if you're a collector.
A collector of wet human brain matter.
There's a lot of stuff in this room. Like, when people come in here and I give them a mini tour, like, it gets insane. Because I have, like, bezoars, and there's, like, this warthog skull covered in shit. There's a giraffe over there. There's a hyena over here. There's a bear up there. There's a bunch of tiny stuff. 17-year cicadas, human bones, my wisdom teeth, many, many things.
I still have my wisdom teeth.
I have like all of my little things in my like special case. There's like my wisdom teeth, my IUD, some other stuff. If it's in your body for a certain amount of time, it's a specimen.
Sometimes they don't let you keep stuff. And it's always like, what the fuck? It's mine.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
literally mine.
If you make a stink about it, then they'll let you keep it. Unless it's like a bebe.
Right.
They're a little weird about that.
Well, they want those stem cells.
Yeah.
Not if it's that small. Wait, is this one of those things that we just shouldn't be talking about on the podcast?
It's legal.
Oh, okay. No,
Like not
if
wearing
it's too
shoes.
small, then I don't think they're harvesting anything. It's just going in bio waste.
Oh, I think you get stem cells from any size of fetus, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I don't know what they did with my situation. Also, I think it's taboo that people don't talk about it. You should talk. I did this situation, and they wouldn't let me keep it. I kind of was like, I would like it in a jar. That sounds interesting to me.
You
But
grew
they
it
said no.
yourself. It belongs to you. You
It's
should be able to
my-
keep.
Yeah, it's my bio makeup. I
Yeah.
should be allowed to keep it, especially as a Jewish
On
person.
the way out, did you say, "What am I paying you for?"
That's right.
Actually, on the way out, I said, "Why are you just giving me this Dixie cup full of apple juice and 1 graham cracker? I want a like this cup is so small." And then they give you the form at the end to be like, "How was your experience?" And it just wrote like, "Not enough juice, tiny cracker, not enough juice, tiny cracker." I mean, that's a whole story because also it was in Oakland and it was phenomenal. There's many levels where you like have a locker room and there's like, you know, but then they lead you into this quiet room where it's like very chill with low lighting. And
See,
they
this
show you
is DIY. This is why I wanted Lyric on the show.
and
Oh yeah.
yeah, and then so you're in the like soft room and you have your robe and there's pillows, and then you watch a Tyler Perry movie. And I watched Medea's wedding, and then
Oh
it's
my
your
God.
turn to go in the operating room, and then you have the situation, and then they don't give you enough juice, and that's what happens. Like I also, you know, because it's a podcast, it was a hard situation, and yes, it's not for everyone, but you know, it wound up fine for me. It was the right choice.
Yeah, right on.
But yeah, Tyler Perry movie. It was all very. It was like a cartoon. Like it would only you couldn't write that ridiculous situation. It was very Oakland and very fabulous.
I think that's what we've learned about Oakland today, is that it seems like a very unique and fabulous place.
Oakland does rock, and I miss it. I can co-sign the.
I miss
the
being in
Oakland
Oakland
rocks.
with Eliza.
It's a good place. It really is.
Are there mountains in Oakland?
I was given the Hella card there. I'm allowed to say Hella because I lived in Oakland, and the locals told me that I'm allowed to say Hella outside of Oakland.
Oh
so-
yeah, I'm a thief. I moved over here and just started using that. I'm not from Oakland at all.
Yeah, you might get called out. You might get called
I know,
out.
right?
So you're from Georgia and you live in Seattle, but you're using Oakland slang.
I grew up
Come on.
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved to Seattle. And at a certain point in my life, Hello was something people were using on the internet quite a bit. And that's where I got it from, was just being an internet dipshit and being like, yeah, that's hella tight, dog. Or something like that.
I'm gonna make hella Skrilla.
Ooh, yeah.
Means I'm gonna make hella money.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know. But then when I moved out here, people were like, that's a California thing. And I was like, oh. It was like kind of the first time I had found something on the internet in language that people were like, that's not from the internet, you idiot. And I was like, oh, yeah.
I feel like if you're a fan of the band Gravy Train, it's fine. You can say hella all you want, because that is an Oakland band,
Hell yeah.
They're
Gravy Train's
amazing.
hilarious. They're great.
and I feel like they should make a comeback, because I miss them.
Shout out to the super weird camp counselor that introduced a very young me to Gravy Train, the band.
Did he play you You Made Me Gay, Girl? Because that song is amazing.
It's, I like, probably, yes. I remember he would just tell us the song titles they had, and as like a 13 or 14-year-old, I'd be like, what?
Yep.
I
It's
saw
very
them
silly.
live at the bottom of a hill in San Francisco, which was another very famous punk venue.
Right. I've heard of Bottom of the Hill.
Yeah, I saw the Skulls there a million years ago.
That's ridiculous.
Like, punk venues are kind of the best because they're in places you would never expect. Like, there's this one in Malibu, which is like a restaurant during the day and a punk venue at night. And I saw the Addicts there a million years ago, and it's like people are moshing. And during the day, this is like a diner.
Yeah. DIY punk spaces are very near and dear to my heart. They're
Mhm.
special spots. Like, that's like, yeah, that's modern day sacred ground. to a lot of people in the music scene, especially.
I thought that your friend, what was it? Is it Christina? The other one who's missing. I thought you would have...
Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
Sorry.
No, all good.
Showed up by now. I mean, you'd think she would have been like, isn't there a show going on?
I got something from her 4 minutes ago. She had a family emergency.
We just heard from her.
Yeah. I didn't cut in, but yeah, she had to deal with
Yeah, we're just glad she's okay.
Well,
yeah, pretty much.
I certainly hope everything's fine.
Yeah, I think it is. It was just it's just circumstances, and now that she's gotten in touch with us, we're all good. We figured it out. But yeah, that's the Moth Pod stuff. It happens to everybody.
The Moth Pod?
Oh, off pod.
Oh, they said Moth Pod. I'm like the Story Slam?
That's just Moth Pod stuff. Everyone knows this.
You're just story slamming, and you're like Story Slam Moth Pod.
We are coming up on about 3 hours though, so I just wanted to check in with you. Like, we're having great convos. This is chill.
I'm fine. There's I still have all of this log of Lin, and it's fine. I just didn't know if I was keeping you guys here because I am having a very fun time. I mean, eventually I'll have to pee, but I'll pee when Eliza's talking about something.
Wow.
No, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I mean, Lyric's already heard it from me all before. She doesn't need to listen to me say stuff.
Yeah. Also, I just know what you're gonna say because I know your temperament. It's one of those things. This
is conceivably the first episode where I might cut this into 2 parts. There's a lot of good discussion here.
If there's enough content that you think is fun, it's great. I mean,
it's good stuff.
I love Eliza. It's that thing. Like I said before, there doesn't need to be constant interaction. I see you when I see you, and when I do, it is magical and means a lot to me.
Well, thank you. We're very happy to call you a friend of the show. And is there anything? I know I already had you do some plugs. Is there anywhere online you want people to find you? Are you a not online type of person? If there's any links you want to throw out, feel free. But if not,
I feel like she should be more online than she is.
Well, I don't know where I should be online. Should I be making TikTok videos where I wear leather things and shake my little booty?
What you've been doing this whole time on camera and everything is what you should be doing on the internet.
Yeah.
I did that.
You just made 6 months of content for TikTok.
I did it during the beginning of the pandemic. I did a couple small videos on Instagram where I just talked about my collection.
That's good shit.
Honestly, you could launch a whole YouTube
your room could be a YouTube
career
channel
from nothing. You could just sit there and do exactly what you're doing with upgraded equipment, and that would be it for you.
But for our listeners, how do you turn that into money?
You do it the way I do it, and you make it into a personality thing where people are like, yeah, I want to buy your stuff. I have very carefully nurtured the situation that I have going now with people who enjoy my work and also don't expect very much of me because they know my limitations. And that is really the line to tread, is that you want people who understand and appreciate your work and you can appreciate them and they're not fucking crazy, which is what I love about my audience, is that they are not crazy assholes who get in my business. And also understand whatever your limitations are. For me, I don't produce very much work because I just don't have that much energy and I have a lot of problems. And that's cool. They're fine with that. They want to read tweets and stupid Tumblr posts and stuff. But it does take a while. It takes a while. But the thing about you is that you're so well connected that you have access to all of these other people's audiences. You have my audience, which would be basically a 1-1 crossover. I mean, that Venn diagram is basically a circle. You've got Melly, you have all the people who were antiseptic fashion buyers, you've got all of the people who know you from wildlife stuff,
and
you have
Burning Man
festival stuff. You've got, it's all there. And all you have to do is basically show up and keep showing up for enough time that it becomes a thing. That's my opinion. I couldn't possibly comment on how long it would take. Probably 2 years to get a decent thing going. But I don't know. That would be my advice to you, and also to anyone like you that is listening to the podcast and wondering, hey, I'm a weird and interesting person. What do I do with it? That was the best advice I ever got about my career ever. I was probably 14, 15 years old, like a high school goth, just kind of starting to do weird stuff. And my dad sat me down one day. He's like, you should just write an autobiographical novel about your life. Middle-aged suburban types who would never in a million years be willing to take the risks that you do, or to live in poverty the way that you're going to, or to do the artistic stuff that you do. They want to read about what you're doing. They want to experience your life vicariously. He was right. He was so right. It has been the most reliable source of both like income and security, and also, you know, validation from people who either don't want to, you know, take those kind of risks themselves, or they're just not interested in living that kind of lifestyle, but they're interested in supporting somebody who is weird, or supporting somebody who, you know, provides them with entertainment in that sense. I don't know, I'm making it sound more parasitic than it actually is.
I really don't think that you are. I think you're being very clear. Like, I think we've all had those experiences where, for instance, we're talking to our parents' friends.
Yes.
And they just think that we are the bee's knees.
Yes.
Because they have never met anyone like us. And we feel very uncomfortable with how complimentary they are being. We're like, why are you saying this? Like, this is very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. And it does feel uncomfortable to like accept that somebody admires or is interested in what you do, because to you it's just like, I wake up in this weird skull pile every day. This isn't interesting to me. And there's also that kind of sense of, especially when you're autistic, that sense of like being perceived or interpreted in a way that makes you uncomfortable, that you want to kind of distance yourself from. But, you know, it's exactly the same as being naked in front of a room full of people who are not going to draw you the right way. Maybe they don't interpret you the right way, but you're still there, and it's your job, and you have the power in the room. And both of you, both the people in the audience and you yourself, naked as you are getting something out of it. And I think that that's valuable. I think that to a certain extent that provides a service, if you are the kind of person who is doing it sincerely, and you're not just being a shitty influencer about it, you know, which you would do it sincerely. It's what you do with your stuff in real life now, you know, presenting wildlife education to people, and being the on-call hurt person.
It's also the thing it's the thing you can't fake.
You cannot fake it.
No.
Yeah, it's the thing that pushes you above the people that are, let's say there's someone just as good at what you're doing, but they don't care enough about it.
Right.
Like, even if they might be a more technically competent person, it's just not going to matter.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, if
it's
you care
the
more
Steve
about
Irwin
it.
thing. Steve Irwin fucking loved those animals. You know?
Yeah, I have issues with him. Well, because he would do stuff in the wild, which I thought was radically inappropriate, like grabbing animals in a really uncomfortable way and basically just like pissing them off in a way that was not necessary for Australia.
True.
Because when you live in a country where everyone is already avoiding the wildlife, you don't need to train the wildlife to stay away from people. Therefore, you don't need to grab shit and be like, look, it's really motherfucking pissed off right now. It's like, that's not cool, dude.
You're right.
Like, I do that stuff in my herping work. Like, when I see California king snakes, I will grab them by the tail and drag them towards me, and I'll do it again and again until they do this thing where they display rattlesnake behavior. They rear up and they shake their tail to make people go away. And I'll do it again and again to be like, people are not your friends, and I want you to do rattlesnake behavior for me and get used to that.
Mm-hmm.
You're out in the open right now at a festival. This is not something you should be comfortable with.
King snakes normally are pretty passive, right? Aren't they one of the more sort of
chill
Some are,
snakes? But California king snakes display rattlesnake behavior and mimic them, especially. So, Western rattlesnakes have a black and white banded tail that looks like a king snake tail.
Mm-hmm.
So king snakes can kind of pretend to be a rattlesnake, and I like to encourage that behavior. The snakes should just be staying away from people.
Yeah.
It's become a thing recently where a lot more rattlesnakes are no longer rattling, because rattling means people are going to kill you with a shovel.
Right. Particularly in Texas, they're still doing those fucking roundups. That is still a thing.
It's also a cultural thing down there. They do a couple like festivals and stuff that kind of revolve around rattlesnakes.
I mean, I get it,
but I know why they're doing it in a cultural way. I very much don't agree, but
I think that they could butcher maybe 1/4 as many rattlesnakes as they actually do and still maintain the
It's like that episode of The Simpsons where they're like pounding the snakes with mallets, and it's like a whole holiday, and all the
Whacking
snakes
day.
take refuge in the Simpsons house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God,
Whacking
Jake,
day.
ask Eliza a really quick question.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, quite literally, we can wrap up whenever.
Yeah.
This is definitely going to be a two-parter at this point.
Two-part it for
I'm
sure.
two-parting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting for me to two-part it. I'll put it that way. It gives me more buffer.
We have a good breaking off point, actually. I think with Mexican legs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, this is all on. Oh, you mean like for like
Jake,
a part
can you
one?
cut the part of you saying it's a two-parter and put that at the front of the first episode?
Maybe.
I think you could do Mexican legs as the cliffhanger.
Because
that's when the fucking disconnect happened anyway.
That is also pretty much our typical episode length in the first place.
I think one time when I told the Mexican legs story, someone told me that saying Mexican legs was racist. And I think about
I was pretty offended, Eliza, but I let it slide, so it's okay.
Thanks, man.
You got the pass.
Yeah.
I'm gonna punch my card.
This is non-transferable.
My gringo card. Carte gringo.
Ha!
Carte blanche.
Hello.
Yeah. Well, this is what happens when you have 3 hours where you have Lagavulin.
We're chatting.
And the cup is so tiny, but still, it's a while. I was wondering, so on this show, have you done an episode where you've talked to people who are doing sex work in a post Sex Across the World?
No, but we are getting there. We're
pitching this.
We basically don't. In my opinion, we want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to fuck it up, but we want to do that.
We're not going to fuck it up. We've got
Well, I feel like it's difficult
and
to fuck it up because the range is so wide. Like it's not just about prostitutes. It's about doms. It's about rub and tug. It's
totally
there's so many things in that spectrum. People that I know, like in our friend group, Eliza, like people we both know who are in every level who have been affected.
Yeah,
it ruined Tumblr for all of us.
Yes.
Yeah, as far as relevant subjects, that is, I mean, that's like really up on our docket for sure.
Yeah.
It's nice to be asked.
Hustling and being a self-made individual in terms of like making your own work, all of a sudden overnight, your main source of connecting to clients disappears.
Yep.
Right.
And your life becomes infinitely more dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one. I hope we can get to that. I mean, I know we can get to that in the future. This is like our 16th record. This will probably be the 14th or 15th episode to air, though. We have a couple in rearranged, releasing wise. So, I'm thinking about it in chunks of 10, and I'm hoping that within this next kind of whatever you want to call it, 10 episode block of our show, our long-winded podcast, we could definitely spend some time getting into that.
Yeah, I
would love to facilitate that kind of conversation.
I think we just want to get guests who do various work and just have them talk about like a professional dominatrix, a financial dominatrix, someone who just sells feet pics, someone who started an OnlyFans, all that different. There's so many different specializations, and each of them require like so much different specialized knowledge, and I think that's really interesting. But yeah, that's we could we could do a whole series.
Oh my god! Yeah, you could do like 20 episodes.
It could be the next. It could be a whole batch of 10. We could have like a whole a mini series, like Eliza was saying, like a mini subject set.
For sure,
it'd be fun. Yeah, we've talked. We've talked to a pretty wide. We've talked to people that are like, like our first guest was this guy Space Twinks. He's basically a furry who made comics criticism on Twitter into like a more of a paid writing career in some ways, and is very much an online person. And we've had like web comics artists. We've had a couple like video games writers. We just had Lana Polanski, who does a Twitch channel like showing off like super old esoteric weird games. So there's quite a bit of a spread that we have on our very general umbrella to get people on here.
You had an independent perfumer.
Yes, that was like shout out Sparissa Zappas. Very
trained in France.
Yeah, Episode 11.
Yeah.
Talking about the notes and the chords.
Oh yeah, that was a fascinating episode because none of us know shit about that subject.
It's so elaborate. Like,
yeah.
you know, there's so much more to perfume than people know. Where there's just so much going in. It's not just like one thing. Because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it's like you're putting this flower in a thing. It's like, no. There's like multiple things happening. Layering, and it's very intense.
Not just to toot our own horn, but you would probably dig the episode lyric. You should check it out.
She's she's a great. I really liked her perfume. That's why I initially wanted to get her on the podcast, and then it was like, well, none of us know anything about this subject, so it's going to be like totally blank slate, just asking dumbass baseline questions of this expert, you know, very trained expert. And I really liked how it turned out. I'm glad we made that contact.
So yeah, we're happy to talk to anyone that's doing something that is, you know, pretty much cool and that you're not getting paid by a larger company to do.
I mean, it's funny, the thing you said before, I'm like, oh, my sister does like pay for internet comics, which are like very furry based. It's like
that's where the money is.
Yeah, she keeps saying that. She's like, you should do this. I'm like, I don't want to. It sounds like a lot of something. Also, I don't have like the patience to work with a Wacom tablet. Like I like pen on paper, and I know it's terrible, but I can't help myself.
It doesn't have to be digital. Furry. I mean, the thing about furries is that whatever you do as an artist, they want you to draw their persona, and they want their persona drawn in every conceivable style, in every conceivable medium, analog. They go nuts for analog drawings because almost everybody's working digitally.
Yeah.
So they would definitely pay extra for someone who actually knows animal anatomy and can do realism is like the furry crown jewel. I mean, they really love the Disney stuff. That's like near and dear to their heart, but the hyper realistic people who really know how animal anatomy works are in extremely high demand. Like wish lists booked out for years, very, very high commission prices. Take a look on Fur Affinity sometime and look for the realism guys, because they are some of them are top of the line.
Like I remember back in the day, you did there was a dragon drawing something for a client or something you did, and it was very popular.
Me?
Yeah, there was a dragon, and it was like a man dragon.
I vaguely remember. I've done a couple of furry pieces.
Yeah, it was like a dragon man with fancy penis. Alternative penises.
That does sound like something I would do.
Dragon men always have those alternative penises.
It was quite titillating.
It does sound like me. Well,
I mean, when you said something about concussions, I'm like, what? Yeah. Like, this is what happens when I don't talk to you for a year. I'm like, you had a concussion?
Oh, I've had a lot of head trauma before you met me. How do you think I got this way?
Well, I thought it was because we're the type of people were horrible to us in our childhood, and we just don't know how to connect to normal people, and we try our best, but then it fails, and they get mad at us, and we just don't understand why they're mad at us, and we're trying our best. We really, really are.
This checks out. It's true.
And then everyone behind our backs is like, Lyric's such a bitch. Eliza's such a bitch. And I'm like, no, Eliza is not a bitch, and neither am I. We're just autistic, and we're really trying our hardest.
I don't care anymore. You know who those people come crying to when they need somebody to put the hammer down? They come to me because they know that I'm the person who will start a fight in a bar, because I don't care what other people think of me. So, you know.
This is the thing. Eliza used to carry a collapsible baton. She will fight for you.
Oh, I believe this.
They're surly and do not take anything lying down.
Yeah. I have gone past that point. I've been to too many riots at this point to be like. Actually, Lyric recognized me at a Occupy. Was it Occupy March?
No, it was when we were doing the thing against the BART police because they shot.
God, the
homeless,
fucking
they shot it was after like the initial thing at Fruitvale Station, but then to like cap it off, they also shot a homeless man who was holding a bottle.
Fucking BART cops.
Of course.
And so there were a bunch of BART protests, and Eliza was doing a very fantastic, I don't know if we talked about this. It's It was a very particular service that I thought was spectacular.
We have not talked about this on the podcast yet. I have alluded to it, but it would certainly be an episode of DIY in of itself.
Yeah, that was a very DIY fabulous thing. It's just I knew you, and also I knew your body. Eliza was completely covered, but I knew her shoes, her body type, and I know Eliza. So I was like, I know Eliza. I'm going to go smack her on the fanny. So I did. And she was like, who the fuck is that? She's like, oh, it's Lyric.
That's good.
Who the fuck is smacking my ass? Okay.
Yeah.
It's my Siamese twin.
If you can recognize me, probably the FBI can too, so oh well.
Yeah, they have a, what's it called? A butt database. They know everybody's butt. It's like that scene in Letterkenny where they're taking pictures of your teeth through people's nipples.
Yep.
It's a thing.
The dossier.
Oh
well, that's a good note to end it on, probably.
Yeah, no, we're good to wrap up. Lyric, thank you so much for being with us for pretty much just 3 straight hours. This has been awesome. We discussed this when you're gone. I am gonna probably chop this into 2. We'll have a part 1, part 2, easy peasy. And
do we say goodbye or something?
We can absolutely say
goodbye.
I've
never done a podcast. I don't know what we do.
You can say goodbye to whoever you want at this moment in time.
Oh, no. Farewell, podcast listeners.
I'm sorry that you missed Michelle because she would have loved you.
And to be honest, we'd be happy to have you back if you ever want to talk.
It is the thing.
There's clearly a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there is so much with. We did not even talk about Burning Man. We have not even talked about Burning Man.
I mean, that's a whole different kettle.
See,
I can
that's
foresee
DIY, baby.
Lyric, I could foresee you being a correspondent for us in a couple different subjects if you wouldn't mind coming back.
I don't know how much Eliza knows, but I do manage a section of a department at Burning Man. So, like, I've been involved with them since 2007. It's
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
well, that's a nice teaser, I think. And thanks you guys for listening. If you've been around for both parts of this, Michelle is good. We figured it out. I might have cut that out of the episode earlier when we were talking. So if you're listening, and we've been bagging on Michelle for not being here, and you're like, oh my God, I need to know. She's all good. We figured it out.
We found her. She's fine.
It was an emergency. Emergencies happen. We're all good.
But she's okay.
Yeah, and she will return in 2 weeks from whenever you're listening to this, which is whenever, because it's a podcast.